to the next club and work for the rest of the day. He works from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. in one club, and from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. in another club. There is a huge demand on the good ones. But there is enough, but the good ones are not enough. But usually it's a big challenge, but personally I look for the former players, not the for the former players and the former good junior players, and start giving them good coaching education to have them as good coaches later.
Can I a follow-up question to that? Because you said you've got so many juniors, and I guess you were saying that a percentage are missing a lot of school, but only a small percentage can make it to the top. What's happening to those groups of kids who are missing school and not making it? What happens to them?
They don't miss it as they fail. They miss as they don't get good grades.
Yeah, that's what
they still, when they stop, they pick up. But usually, it's very rare to find one of the top players now advancing in education in like top grades and top schools, unless he gets like a scholarship in one of the top schools. But usually you'll find the good ones are in the B grades, the not so good ones in the C, maybe in the D. But they're not like failing, they're not missing school that they don't go. They go, but maybe they miss once or twice a week, for example, but they get distracted a bit. Maybe they don't get good grades in exam, but they're managing to pass. They're not really failing, but they're managing to pass. But if they stop, they're gonna pick up and go. And also it's a risk. It's a kind of risk actually when like the parents take the choice that the squash is a priority. It's a risk, and it's one of the pressures on the kids. For example, I'll give one of the examples actually is Omar ElBorolossy. He was one of the first real professionals in the late stage, because ElBorolossy was my same age. I continued my education, he didn't. He was one of the very first few who didn't continue education at all. He was world junior champion when he was 18. He didn't go to university at all until now. He made the choice that squash is enough, and he's good enough to make it all the way in squash, and that was his decision and his parents' decision. Similar case maybe Mustafa Asal, the current world junior champion. He's enrolled in one of the schools. He never goes. I know his parents, and he doesn't go to school. He's been training in the last maybe 3 years, because I've been following him since he was 14, maybe 13 and a half, 14. He's been training like a professional, full-time professional, 6 days a week, morning, afternoon, squash, solo, drills, games, fitness, every day, 6 days a week. And this is what gave him the huge advantage. When you see him now, when you see him playing now, you think he's been on the professional tour for 15 years. He's only 18, very mature and very professional in everything. The quality of play, the game that he plays, the level of maturity, because he spent time on the squash court more than many of the PSA players. He already spent huge amounts, hundreds and thousands of hours training already in the last 4 years. But this is one example, this is one player. He cannot make this popular and tell everyone, because also his parents, they took a risk. And some of the parents, they take the risk and it doesn't happen. But
what happens to those ones? That's what
they keep, as I said, when they stop squash, they pick up their education. They're not the best, maybe education, but they manage. Not the top schools, maybe in lower grade schools, but they manage. But very few examples who really take the decision of really missing school and taking the risk and to go all the way in squash. And I still, to this day, I don't recommend this at all. example, I have an engineering degree. I continued and I see it as an asset that after you finish playing, you have the choices. You know, because for those players who took this decision, they only have one option: become world-class players, and after they retire, their only option is to work as trainers or coaches. And sometimes it is not available, sometimes they don't really succeed, sometimes they're not. For example, Ahmed Barada didn't really make it in coaching or training. He just vanished. And when you don't have the good education, you're out. But we always recommend the parents and the kids to keep the balance, not to go all the way. I did it myself, I do it for my kids. I recommend all my academy players to keep the balance. I always, as I said, I always try with the Egyptian Federation and with the clubs to keep the competition away from school times, even if it takes more days. I tell them, why not have the tournament on 8, 9, 10 days, but all afternoons, and keep kids going to school in the morning and competing in the afternoon, day after day. We're trying, the balance is much better for my personally, this is what I think.
At this moment in my country, I have two problems that I can think it could be related to Egypt. First of all, my city is really busy city. I can see in Egypt traffic is hard. Do you have any problem with your pupils to get on time for the training coming from school or that sort of problems?
Yes.
How do you manage that? Like, if let's say he doesn't make it to the first schedule, can he train in the next schedule, or all the groups are organized at the same time, or how does it work?
It is a problem. Definitely, traffic is a huge problem. We usually don't like in Egypt. No one is penalized for being late in sports or at work or anything. There's no penalty for being late. You're always excused. And we stopped even asking why you are late. but usually, as I said, when you have a specific schedule, yeah, you miss the training sometimes. But now with the good thing now is that with the many academies and with many private clubs, the parents are starting to choose places close by to train at. So most maybe 90% or 95% now of the players and the juniors, they live around 15, 20 minutes maybe away and sometimes closer to the club. That's why we started to have facilities in more branches in different areas. So it's the only solution is to have more clubs and more courts closer to where they live. And it even, actually one of the things now that people are very passionate about squash, that I have many people who changed completely their life and left for that. I know people who were living in Alexandria who moved to Egypt, the whole family, the father and the mother, and changed work and changed, they sell their house and bought another house close to a better club to train with a specific coach. This is how passionate the parents are becoming. Many of the players, not just the player who moves, the whole family moves to another area just for squash. It's a family, huge family decisions are made just for practicing and playing squash. Not really. We don't have specific programs. We have actually, it's one of the negative things in Egypt. It's still physiotherapy and the sports medicine in Egypt. It's not that advanced. Or as you say, it's not advanced enough to cater for this level of playing sports. We have very few physiotherapists work individually with the top players, and that's it. They are known by names. Like I have been in this field for more than 30 years now. I know 4 or 5 good physios who work with the players. This is one thing we are really lacking, because like the squash really boomed so fast and was not supported by the sports medicine education, which is really not advanced in Egypt as a whole. But this is one of the problem, and very few people who work with the. You don't see when you see the Egyptian players in the PSA tournament. Very rarely that you find a physio with them or someone working with them. It's a big problem now for the players. No, we don't have a system for a medical assessment. But the only thing, like in my academy, when you enroll your kids, you need to make sure that he's healthy enough to play the sport. Like the parents also, they have like to sign paper that it's fit enough, doesn't have like heart problems, doesn't have problem with a real problem that really makes it risky to play the game. But the assessment that is done is more physical fitness assessment, that we do it regularly for the kid to see if they're getting better, if they're moving forward with the physical part, but not really the medical part.
With regards to the pathways, which you did mention about the junior development, like in your academy, do you have students who get picked in the national team, and once they're picked, they don't go back to the academies anymore, right? Or do they still go back to the academy, or they just train with the Egyptian national team, junior team?
No, they stay. The system, especially in the last year, the national junior team is not something ongoing. Usually the players are picked before the tournaments, like a month or a couple of months before the tournaments. Like now we have in this month, they're going to pick the players who are going to the British Junior Open in January. They come just a couple of months before, they take like the top 5 in the ranking, and they train them for the month before the tournament, and maybe like 3 times a week, for example. So they train as part-time with the national team, but they keep their training in their academies and their clubs. Because also after the tournament, they're done with the national team, they go back. So the national team is actually like part-time before the events, even like the men